Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Influential Women Podcast. I have the honor of having Miss Jane Rawlings here today. I know, who would have thought the legendary Jane would be here, but she is here, and I'm so excited to get to know you, Jane. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Jenny, and thank you so much for inviting me to meet you and talk with your audience. It was a pleasure to look back over my life and think how very, very blessed I've been. And so I have a feeling my story is going to be pretty boring.
Oh, I don't think so, because here in Pueblo, you are a legend and you have done so much for our community. So go ahead and just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, everybody wants to know where I went to high school. And
right,
yes,
because that's a Pueblo thing.
Yes, I am from Pueblo. And although I graduated from Centennial, it was the old Centennial, the one downtown.
Oh.
So a long time ago.
I didn't even know there was a Centennial downtown. And now they're building a new one.
Now they're building a new one, right. Oh. So, yeah, it was circa Central High School, that same type of genre, but not nearly as pretty a building. And it was falling apart. And they tore it down, I think, in the 70s. I graduated in the 60s. So that tells you a little bit about how old I am. But I did live on the north side, but I lived on the south side until I was 12.
Oh, okay. So you switched during middle school?
I went to middle school at Freed. And, of course, they've torn it down, too.
Geez, man, they just tore down all your schools.
I know. And they may tear down Carlisle, which is where I went to grade school.
Oh, I went to kindergarten there.
Did you?
But it's been closed all this year.
Oh, yeah, I know. I think it's one of those. It's on the chopping block.
So you're a bulldog.
Yes.
You're a bulldog. And so you're born and raised in Pueblo. What was your maiden name?
Rawlings.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, so okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
So when I married my husband, whose last name is Dill, we decided Jane Dill sounded too much like Jane Doe. And besides, we worked at the same company, and it was back in the 70s, early 80s, it was policy that you didn't date somebody that you worked with. And so we just wanted to keep it fairly low key. So I've kept my maiden name the whole time. And when I moved back to Pueblo, of course, my parents were still living, and that was wonderful to be a Rawlings. And I'm proud to be a Rawlings.
Well, you should be. That's definitely a big name here in Pueblo. I mean, how many things are named after the Rawlings family?
Right. A lot.
A lot.
Yeah. They were the influential ones.
Your parents?
Yes. I just kind of came along for the ride.
Oh, I think she's being a bit humble. But so you went away. Where did you go?
So I graduated from high school and went to college in Colorado Springs for 4 years. And I really wanted to have an intellectual experience, but I'm revealing deep secrets here. Instead, I had experienced beer. And so I really didn't study very hard. I really didn't do very well in college, and I do regret that. But I did have an opportunity to join Pan American World Airline when I was 21 and went to New York City, lived on Manhattan for 15 months. It was a miserable job. I did not like being an airline hostess. We called them stewardesses in those days. Mm-hmm. But and I didn't even get to go any cool places. So that was a disappointment. But living in Manhattan was really an experience. And I found out that I'm a little country girl from the sticks, and that big city, the values are just totally different from anything I had believed even existed. So I came back to Denver and started working in retail, and then moved down to Colorado Springs when I first married my first husband, and lived there for about 20 years. And then my current husband and I started moving around the country. And we went to Phoenix, we went to California, Southern California, we went to upstate New York, we went to Texas. So we went all over, and it was so interesting because every place is unique, every place is different, the people are different, and it was just very interesting to learn about the different cultures in our big, huge country. And so that was really, really fun. Then when we were living in Corpus Christi, I got a call from my dad's general manager at the newspaper at the Chieftain, and they offered me a temporary job. They knew I didn't have a job. We'd just moved to Corpus. And so I did this research proposal on this new thing called the internet. And so they said, oh, well, that's really interesting. Why don't you come start the internet in Pueblo? And so after 30 years of having been gone, I came back, and I guess that's all she wrote. I was at the Chieftain for over 20 years and found it to be very rewarding, but I did not have the passion for that industry that my dad did. But I had a passion for my parents, and so I just decided I would stick with my dad and help him until he passed away. So I was 70 when he died, and maybe the hardest thing I've ever done in my life was to sell that newspaper. Emotionally, it was very difficult. It had ramifications that I would never have expected. Dad knew, I mean, it was in his will. He knew it was going to be sold. And the proceeds would go to his foundation. And the foundation was to be, the money from the foundation was to be used to better the lives of people living within the Chieftain distribution area, which at one point in time was huge. It was all of southeastern Colorado. It went up to Leadville at one point and throughout the San Luis Valley. So it was huge. So we have a large catchment area for the Rawlings Foundation with lots of different opportunities to provide grants for large organizations, large nonprofits, scholarships, and very, very, very small organizations. So that was the blessing. Having to sell the Chieftain was very difficult, and I did have
How
people
long ago
helping
was
me.
that?
It was 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not too long ago, but
Not too long ago, long enough for them to have really changed the newspaper. And I don't blame them. It's a difficult industry. I couldn't have done that. And it's been very painful to watch the deterioration. I hope this new lady, I hope she listens to the podcast, and this new lady who is the current editor will be able to convince the money people to put a little bit more money in the Pueblo market. So maybe we can have some college sports would be nice.
yeah. Right. I'm sure that's hard being in your life. Your entire life you have the paper, and then to let it go and then not have any control. I'm sure that's been frustrating and
sad, very sad.
Well, the Chieftain has always been so iconic, especially in the Pueblo community. I know it goes to all the surrounding, but it's just been such a legacy here in Pueblo, and it's been sad, but you never know.
Well, my dad knew it was going to happen, and my understanding, because I was gone for 30 years, and that's when the paper really got going good. My great-grandfather started the whole thing here in Pueblo in 1918, so it was 100 years. And my great-grandfather was a taskmaster, and he was very much a newspaper man, very much a newspaper man. His son, Frank Hoke Jr., was more outgoing and fun-loving and did a lot of nonprofits. He actually was one of the people who founded Pueblo Community College because he went to Colorado College and Princeton, and he realized that some of the kids he went to school with here at Centennial, he went to Centennial too.
Oh, he's a bulldog as well.
Oh, yeah. were a lot smarter than him and would have been much better students and more successful maybe if they hadn't been born into his family. So he wanted to start a school for people that lived in Pueblo, could go to school in Pueblo, and it was less expensive, lots less expensive. And it started in the courthouse, upstairs in the courthouse, and it was a business college. So you
cool.
kind of learned businessy type stuff. But
So what brought your great-grandpa here to Pueblo, Colorado?
oh, these are the good stories. My great-grandmother and grandfather, Hogue, moved here from Philadelphia. He was a business person, very young. They had 2 young daughters when my great-grandmother was diagnosed with tuberculosis. So this was back at the turn of the century, that other century. And they came out here to Colorado Springs because it was thought to be, and I think it was, more healthful for someone that had TB. And her parents apparently had quite a bit of money. And so they came out and bought a house in Colorado Springs that had a big balcony. And she could recover sitting in the sun, looking at Pikes Peak. And my great-grandfather actually commuted down to Pueblo to work for Mr. Vail, who had the newspaper then.
Okay.
And so he wanted my great-grandfather, Frank, to come run the newspaper. And Frank said no, he wouldn't do it unless he offered him an opportunity to actually buy the newspaper. And they worked a deal, and so he bought the Star Journal, Pueblo Star Journal. Mm-hmm. It was an evening newspaper, very much in competition with the Pueblo Chieftain, which was a morning paper. But by 1933, he actually bought the Chieftain and put them together, housed them together. And so...
so why did he drop the Pueblo Star or the Journal Star?
He wouldn't have if he had been living, because that was his baby.
Oh, okay.
But the evening paper just declined in readership.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind of the beginning. And then my dad came in as general manager and in 1980 was publisher. And he just increased the professionalism, covered a lot of government, which perhaps his uncle, my great uncle, didn't do as much. And so he just really he really built up the circulation. And I know in 1988, when Dad decided to make his foundation, he realized that his kids were not going to be going into the newspaper business, nor were any of my cousins. So he had that much foresight and really wanted to build his foundation based on the Chieftain, which at that point in time, I think it was the Chieftain only. And he had plans with this foundation to build it up throughout until it was sold after he died. And so that was that's been his plan all along.
So the foundation's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
The foundation started out giving scholarships and about $40,000 a year in scholarships. And so we give to Otero College. What's the other one down in the valley? Lamar Community. Lamar Junior College.
Uh-huh.
And PCC, CSU Pueblo, Alamosa, Adams State, and Trinidad State.
Oh, wow.
So we give scholarships, and we still do.
That's fantastic.
And that was how it started out. And it was very, very small until until he passed. And then we had to transition from giving away that much money to now we are fortunate enough to be able to provide grants totaling about $1 million a year.
Oh my
gosh,
yeah. That just gives me goosebumps.
Isn't that wonderful?
That is fantastic. And, I'm on the CASA board, and I know we've received some grants. So I want to say thank you, for doing that to, an organization that's special to my heart. But wow, that's a big increase from $40,000 to $1 million a year.
Well, we can certainly thank a couple of people that helped me with getting the office set up, because it had always been the executive secretary or the promotions manager
Okay.
who did the foundation stuff, because it wasn't really much. And so we had to set up an office and do some more. In fact, Andrea found out just the other day that we don't have a business license.
Oh, that's all right. She'll figure it out. And what a more amazing woman to be running
Absolutely.
like just what a beautiful fit, and how
Yep.
that all worked out for her and you and the foundation. I'm excited for you both. She's done a wonderful job.
She's absolutely the best, a perfect fit. She's from Rocky Ford. My dad grew up in Los Animas,
Okay.
and so they're both from the Lower Ark Valley. She gets it, and she is so professional, so smart, so beautiful.
She's all the things. She was seriously the first one on my podcast list. I was like, Andrea, you're coming on first. And seriously, that was the time I had like 20 pages of questions, because I didn't know what a podcast was either. Like when I reached out to you, you're like, I've never been on a podcast, and I had never been on, even listened to one before I started this. But I knew I wanted to share women's stories and hear other people's, professionalism and advice, and what, how can we learn and grow as individuals. But she was, because I admire her. You got to keep her.
She's the best.
Yeah, she really is.
Absolutely the best.
So how many siblings do you have?
So I'm the oldest of four.
Oldest of four.
And I have a brother, John, who lives in San Diego, and a sister, Callie, who lives in Durango, and my baby brother, who is 60, is in Ashland, Oregon, being kind of a hippie.
Kind of a hippie.
Yeah, he's a musician. He's a professional musician.
I love it.
And
But you call him a hippie because
he is. All my siblings are wonderful, but he is just the dearest man, and totally different drummer. Totally different drummer. Some drummer out there that I don't know about, but he is wonderful, and I adore him. I adore them all. But yeah, four siblings, so spread around.
they were all bulldogs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The baby brother was graduated from the new Centennial, which is now being torn down. The rest of us went to the old one.
Okay.
Old one.
Okay. So do you guys still all go to the bell game every year? Do you have traditions like that?
No, you know what? I was gone for so long that, and my husband is not from Pueblo,
Okay.
so we just haven't really gotten into that at all. My siblings, brother John in San Diego, doesn't even come back for his reunions. Well, in fact, none of them do.
Okay.
And so, in fact, I don't very often.
And you're like, I'm here.
I'm here. I always thought that was weird, but
Well, because when you kind of live in Pueblo, you see, most of the people anyways.
you see a lot.
Yep.
And I do enjoy those that come in, and that's kind of fun to see people that don't live in Pueblo. But no, we're kind of spread around. Don't see each other very often. Keep in touch with email. Yeah.
What was it like growing up with, your three other siblings? Or you have four? You're the fourth.
I'm the fourth. Yeah.
You're the fourth. Okay.
So I was being the oldest, I was bossy and not very nice most of the time. And I think I was real smart in school. And so my brother, John, that wasn't his gig at all. He was athletic and was into that kind of stuff. And so his teachers would say, "Oh, you're Jane's brother." And, immediately I feel really badly about that. But I'm sure it was really hard for him. Callie, not quite so much, because she is that much younger, and being a girl, I think that was fine. And then Bobby, I don't even think anybody still at those schools even knew him or knew me. So we're spread enough apart enough that we weren't all going to school at the same time. In fact, we were never in school together.
Okay. So, your parents spaced you out pretty.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And what's one of your favorite childhood memories?
Oh, my favorite childhood memories. I am so, so blessed to have the life that I have. My mom is from northeastern Colorado and grew up in a big old house, and she hated the heat. It was hot there though. I don't. She just didn't like the heat. And the house that we lived in Pueblo didn't have air conditioning. So my great grandfather Frank Hogue Sr., had purchased this house out in Beulah, and that was the thing kind of that the some of the families did. The women would go stay in Beulah in the summertime, and the men would commute to Pueblo because it was a pretty good commute. And so I got to spend all my summers in Beulah, and we had
awesome.
horses, and we had a swimming pool, and we had tennis, and we had. I mean, it was a resort. It was just such a blessed life.
Oh, fun.
And
Beulah is so beautiful too.
Oh yes, the best part is my mom would give us our little chores lists in the morning, and so when you get your chores done, we're out of here.
You got to play. So tell me about that, because I'm teaching my kids chores and we fight about it. So your mom would write down chores, like you had so many, and then once you got them all crossed off.
Right. And I do remember one time I had dusting. This was actually in Pueblo. I had dusting, and she was imparting upon me the correct way to dust was to get all the rungs on the chairs and take the books out of the bookshelf and make sure the tops were all dusted and that the behind the books were dusted. And I had a little fit. Like I said, I was kind of stubborn. I had a little fit, and I told her I wasn't going to do it. Well, the minute it came out of my mouth, I did it, and she knew I wasn't going to. But I was not really a very nice kid, actually. I think I'm nicer now.
Oh, I don't believe that.
No, it's true. Mom, I'm sorry. I really am sorry. But yeah, that experience of being able to be in the mountains in the summertime and having a lot of freedom and friends that we just goofed around. We played poker and we swam and we rode horseback and just had so much fun. I mean, I had a little bit of a city life, and then I had that rural aspect to it, which.
So when you went to New York, that's what you're talking about, from the sticks, you came from a different, upbringing.
Total different culture, yeah.
And tell me a little bit about your mom.
So my mom grew up in Fort Morgan. Her dad was a farmer and a rancher, and her mother was a young woman. Actually, she wasn't young when she was married, who came from Orange, Texas. And it was kind of an arranged marriage. She was of 12 girls, I think, one of 12. My. And unmarried. And when her mother met my grandfather's mother, they sort of said, these two young people really probably would make a good couple. And he was the rancher. And so she grew up, Mom grew up with her mother on a large city lot with lots of flowers and vegetable gardens. And then, of course, my grandfather had these farms and ranches and was gone a lot. He went to Denver and gambled. And so Mom kind of, as I understand, because I didn't know her then, was not a very nice young girl either. She was kind of bossy.
Just strong leadership skills.
Right. And I always thought she was so kind and so generous. And she actually made the conscious decision to do that. And so I figured that was an aha. So you can choose to react to something in a way that's different than what you always have. And I thought that was a beautiful gift. And being able to have the responsibility to do chores was a gift. We had a little slip of paper. She had a little memo pad, and she would write down our chores for the day. And when we were finished, then we could, we didn't have the ability to just go anywhere, but we were pretty free to do the rest of our day the way we wanted to.
That is so neat. I love that. You're here on the Influential Woman podcast. Who's been an influential woman in your life?
Well, obviously my mom.
Your mom.
My mom, definitely. My grandmother, my dad's mother, was a very intellectual woman who traveled the world, lost her husband fairly early on. She was widowed in her late 50s and traveled the world and did so many amazing, wonderful things. She was
similar to you, traveling the world.
Traveling the world, yes. And I was fortunate enough to do that as well. So, she was a teacher, and she taught me, I hope I'm not slipping up. She taught me good grammar, and I felt really blessed, and for your children, that I had a family life where my parents spoke good English. And so I didn't have to struggle with, is this a noun or a pronoun, or is it a past tense, or because I heard it the way it was correct. And I always felt very fortunate about that, because I had a lot of friends that really struggled trying to figure out this language thing.
Well, I'm sure you had it just figured out like to the T, because, if not, did you get corrected?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I was one person probably in the whole world that loved to diagram sentences. And so when I was in high school, that was one of the things that we did. We diagrammed sentences.
How fun.
Doggone, it helps to really understand how the language works and how to best communicate. So, yeah.
So grammar, that's one of the things that, what else did your mom do for you, or something that you tried to instill in your life that she did?
Well, she was very involved in volunteer work here in town. She belonged to several ladies' organizations and did a lot of volunteer work. She had a lot of lady friends. And that, back in the day when the Art Center was started by Kathy Farley and Pat Kelly 50 years ago, the women were not usually employed outside of the home. And so that was her gift. That was her gift to the kind of the community. She grew up in Colorado but didn't know Pueblo. But she learned to love the city. She loved Beulah. And, so she was...
And that's something you've definitely done, because obviously I've heard your name so many times because you give back in the community. You're on the United Way board?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
No, not anymore.
Termed off of that one.
I've been on quite a few boards locally, and have not. I've really trimmed it back with finally being able to retire, and then COVID. But I am on the CSU Pueblo Foundation board right now.
With my husband then?
Yes.
You guys just keep following each other then, I see.
Yes. I knew him years ago, not too many years ago, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's always spoke very highly of you, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes, he thinks the world of you.
He's a great guy. He's one of those Energizer bunnies.
Yeah, he doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And so you traveled. So why did you travel? Like, what did you do when you were traveling those 30 years?
So my husband was in business, and we worked for the same company. We met at the same company in Colorado Springs, and he was working for two men who were younger than himself. And so that's probably not right grammar.
Here, now she's thinking about her grammar.
Right. But he knew that the only way he was going to get a promotion was to leave the company, because these two young guys were going to stay around. And so we moved to a job where he had a promotion, and then that company had financial problems, so we moved to another company, and kind of that same cascading thing. I think we picked the wrong business to be in. We were in direct mail. You're probably familiar with Current Incorporated. And so the catalog business kind of went the way newspapers went the way of catalog business. So he he found himself out on the street several times, and then we would end up moving. And so this last move back to Pueblo was my choice. And he said, well, that could be kind of fun. And my mom was delighted. My dad was delighted. And as it turned out, was really a wonderful place for me because, and I will tell you this story, and you can shut me up when I'm talking too long.
Oh, you're never going to tell. You tell me all the stories in the world.
So I was diagnosed with ovarian and uterine cancer about a year after I moved back to Pueblo. And it had spread quite a bit and was a pretty serious diagnosis. I had wonderful doctors. And here I am 23 years later, alive and kicking. Well, I'm sort of kicking.
You're totally kicking.
Yeah, the camera doesn't show it, but my walker and my leg braces, when I had radiation therapy, it kind of, I don't think this is exact medical terminology, but it kind of melted the nerves in my pelvis. And so my legs are very weak. And, I did the best I can, but doggone it, I fell quite a few times in the last 6 months, and I'm not going to fall again. And so I take my walker along so that I can be mobile, and it's not that hard to do. And so when people see me, they go, oh, are you better? Well, I'm probably not going to get better, but that's okay because I'm here, I'm alive, and like I said, I have had a blessed life. So.
Yeah, and you look fantastic. So are you completely cancer-free? Mm-hmm. How long have you been cancer-free?
23 years.
Okay, the 23 years. Yeah. And what was that like getting that news? You move back and then you get diagnosed that you have ovarian cancer.
Right. Yeah, so it was a Christmas time. So it was
even a harder time to deal with it.
Yeah, it was. Nobody likes to hear that diagnosis. My husband, Dr. Tonsing, my gynecologist, called me and said, "I want you and Dave to come in the morning and meet with me." And I'm going like, "Oh, that's not good news." And so she told us both, and she said I was going to need surgery, and I said, "Okay, how kind of in my let's do the minor way." And she said, "Oh no, we're gonna cut you open and take everything out." And they did. She did. And so that was the right thing to do. I had chemotherapy before I could, I had 2 weeks later I started chemotherapy. And so I did this wonderful thing, and I hope that this helps other people that have had cancer and chemotherapy. I had a picture of Vincent van Gogh's Starry, Starry Night above my infusion chair. And I envisioned the cancer cells being turned into stardust, and not something bad, instead of kill. It was let's just change the chemistry and the biology of these cells that are not helping me and change them to something else. So I did a lot of visualization, praying. I just really got pretty spiritual then. And I think it was harder on my family than it was on me because I just did what I had to do. And, they felt pretty helpless.
And how long did you battle?
I was in chemo for about 4 months, I think. And then I had a recurrence. And so they found that at Christmas, the following Christmas. So that was not curable with surgery, but with radiation. And so Dr. Bryant at St. Mary Corwin set up the radiation. And by George, that did it.
Well, good.
And so that was about maybe 3 or 4 months.
Okay, so not that long then,
no,
really.
No. And I got my energy. I was pretty young. I got my energy back pretty right away, and so
And the name Jane, were you named after somebody?
Oh, yes. My mom's sister.
Your mom's sister.
Yeah, my mom's sister.
Okay. So what other hardships did you experience? Because, like you've said, you've been very blessed with the life you've
very
had.
blessed,
You've overcame cancer, though. What did you have any other hardships that you overcame?
I would have to say no, nothing remarkable. I know people that have had to struggle much harder than I did. I had such a wonderful foundation and supportive family that if I ran into a situation that was negative, I could always go home. And but I didn't really have any other negative things. I would say just the fact that I'm still here. I think God has a plan for me, and I haven't done all the work yet. So
What else is on your list to do? I
well,
want to hear this.
I'm not sure. I wish I had a passion for something specific, and I've wished that all my life. And I've been guided to do things that, you want me to do that? But I probably to make sure that things are taken care of, that the foundation is in good shape, that my husband is somewhat older than I am, that he has care from me and from others, and that I will give this advice.
Oh, I love advice.
And you are right here for it. When my mom died, her will was very simple, and everything was not very difficult to figure out. She didn't have assets all over the place. She had a car, she had a house, she had some investments. But my dad's estate was horrendously complex. And what I would tell all young people is make it as easy as you can on your personal representative. Because especially if you don't have somebody here locally, it's a hardship on your kids.
So your mom passed before your dad?
She did.
She did. And so when your dad passed, that was you because you were here. You're the only one local, so that was you. It wasn't you and the siblings. So that is really good advice. I've already done my will and everything just because I want to make sure my children, and everybody knows that, where everybody's going and what our dreams and wishes and whatnot are. So yeah.
Very wise. Very wise.
But that's fantastic advice. And so I'm glad I've already kind of got a good start on that.
Yeah,
do you have children?
My husband has 3 daughters.
3 daughters.
And so when he and I married, the youngest was 2, but she lived out of state, and the 2 older girls were in high school.
Okay.
And so I never really knew them a lot, and even now they all live out of state.
Okay. Where do they live?
We have one daughter who lives in Buffalo, Missouri, and they also live on a farm. She and her husband raise cows and calves, and he also is a builder and a home builder. And Lisa taught school in that rural school district for years, and I think she was maybe 55 when she retired, so she maybe not that old. I think she was maybe 52 or 3 when she retired from teaching. And now she is involved in an organization that teaches kids who are, I think dyslexic is the word she uses. But they're plenty smart, but they just have some sort of a perception.
Or autism? Autistic? No?
Some of them probably autistic. Yeah, some of them are probably autistic. And so she's back in teaching. The middle daughter is in Oklahoma City area, and she works for a cancer registry for the state of Oklahoma. And she has a daughter who is a freshman at OSU and is gorgeous. The oldest daughter's children are all married, and we have a great-grandson we've never seen, whom we hope to see sometime.
Yeah.
He's 2 years old. And then our youngest daughter has a wonderful husband who is so kind and generous to her. And he lives in Peyton, Colorado, and she lives in Boise, Idaho.
Okay.
She has this fabulous job with Verizon and is a manager, a regional manager of most of Idaho and part of Oregon. And so she's got a great big job. And their daughter is 12. And we just don't get to see them very often. We were lucky to see Amy and Jeff and Aria at Christmas time. So that was nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any regrets in life? Is there that one thing that you were like, I wish I would have done that differently?
Tons. Yeah, tons. Like I said, I'm not a very nice person, so
I think you're very pleasant. I don't know what you're talking about.
I can be grumpy, and I probably am grumpier to my husband, just because he's the one I love the most.
Right, and that's the ones you
sense?
No, it does, because usually the ones you love the most, like
Yeah.
sometimes you can be that extra grumpy with her because they know you. I don't know. I
don't
get
know.
it.
I guess you just expect them to understand or something. But he is the most wonderful man in the world, and he deserves a little bit nicer Valentine.
Oh, well, maybe we'll go to Hobby Lobby and make him something after this.
Okay.
We'll figure something. What's his name?
David.
David.
Dave Dill.
Dave Dill.
Yeah, like dill pickle.
Yeah, that's a fun name.
Yeah, it is.
And what's your favorite thing about him?
He is a reincarnation of MacGyver. Does that mean anything to you?
Yeah, I've heard the name.
Okay, so the MacGyver show that we used to watch back in the 80s, I think, this character was pretty charismatic, but he knew how to take salt and toilet paper and baking soda, not even baking soda, but I don't know, duct tape, and make a bomb so that he could get out of trouble. And he can just make anything. He can put together, he just built a fence in our backyard. We have 2 dogs, and he was trying
you just got a puppy,
yeah,
right?
we just got a puppy, and he likes to dig. And so Dave wanted to keep him out of the garden. And so he built a fence. And he just would go out in the garage, and he would take
And build
some wood and take some wire and yeah.
He's handy then.
Oh, really?
See, my husband's the opposite. He's like, you better find a handyman that can do it because I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so everybody's going to want to know, what kind of puppy did you just get?
Okay, so he's a standard poodle, and his name is Watson.
Wow. Oh, I love that name.
As in Sherlock Holmes Watson. Cute. And he is 4 months old, 4 months old, and he is a terror. Talk about grumpy. Oh my goodness, he can just give you what for. And his brother, who is also a standard poodle, is 8.5 years old, and he is the sweetest dog. And so we got 2 different ones. They definitely have different personalities.
Well, he's still a puppy. Give him a little bit of time.
He's definitely puppy, yeah.
And what made you want to get another puppy?
I can't imagine.
You're like, I really don't know at this point.
Yeah, he was. Well, we've been talking about it for a while because Charlie really needed to have a friend, and so we just went and visited this litter here, and not the first one we'd seen. And this little guy sat on my lap, and I said, "He's so calm." And she said, "Yes." And I said, "I want this one." Well, he changed.
Oh,
But he'll be a fine dog. But he has a different personality.
oh.
Yeah.
Jane, what are 3 words that best describe you? And you don't get to use grumpy as one of them because you are not grumpy.
Because I have already used that one. That is really hard because I am so different in different environments. And so maybe, well, I try and be truthful. I think I'm not always as successful as I would hope, but I try and be truthful. I try and be kind. That's one I have a little bit of sometimes. Hard, I find it difficult. And hopeful. I would say definitely hopeful. That's a good one.
I love those three. So far, I could see them.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And what is your why?
Because my creator told me so.
Tell me more.
I'm not real religious, but I'm very spiritual. I feel very connected to my creator. And I think this day and age, we really need to have something outside of ourselves to focus our values and not just let our values sway in the wind, whatever comes up. And I think if I have one regret, that I wish I were younger, because I wish I could go into some work with young people and try and instill in them the character that you need to develop in yourself. And you don't just play video games.
Oh, no. We don't even allow them in our house.
Oh, good for you. Although I'm reading these things that, it really helps us get a job in the future.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. They'll be good humans.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out. But I think we have lost, as a people, as a country, I think we've lost our way as far as opportunity and making sure that our laws are fair, but also that we try and get better. And I think that's one of the things that our founders thought was pretty evident, that we were not, we had not lived up to what they what they thought they hoped for us. Mm-hmm. And I think that we need to quit whining.
Amen.
and
get to work
and get to work
and
right.
Be better people. Yeah, I think we can all grow. Yeah, we can all grow and be better. And if we think that we're the best we can be, well, I think we're wrong. I feel like we all have different chapters and stages in our life, and
yes, we do.
You got to rise to the occasion and try something new or do something that challenges you to, make sure you're always trying to be the best that you can be at that time.
That's right.
Because look at you. You have done, what's the proudest thing you have accomplished in your life? You've done a lot.
I would definitely say I'm proudest of Dad's, of shepherding Dad's foundation. Mm. I think that we are so fortunate to be able to help the folks that, especially Pueblo has a population that is underserved, but the valleys, oh my goodness, they are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people that have so little to work with. And whenever we have an opportunity to help them out, it just makes me feel great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Jane, I used to be a teacher, and in my literacy class, we would do the adopt a classroom. And so we would go through the paper, we would do different things, but I always just thought that was neat. I don't know if you remember when people would adopt a classroom, and I'm like, I just loved that. That was so neat that, we got to do that as teachers and help our kiddos learn how to read the paper and what to look for and different things like that. What was always your favorite part of the paper? Like, was there something you always opened to first?
I'm a very chronological person, so I would read page 1.
Page 1.
Page 2, and then page 3.
What about your dad? Was he always like super excited about?
Oh, I think maybe he was the same way.
Okay.
He may have read sports first but I'm not sure about that. He would lay the newspaper out on the kitchen table, and he had his little scissors or little razor thing, and he would just cut out all kinds of articles. And so it was a little hard to really keep track of how he was reading it. But I think he...
Did he let everybody read it first before he did that? Or did you guys probably just get multiple papers?
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Oh, yeah. We got a paper at home, and he got a paper at the office.
Okay. And I'm sure you have tons of articles clipped out and framed all over, yes or no?
Not so much framed.
Okay.
But we have a lot of archival stuff in the library archives. And we have a lot of his personal clippings and pictures just in file folders. He kept a file folder every year, and when he got something like a note from a senator or something, he would just pop it in there, and that's how he kept things. So the newspaper, this is an interesting thing too. The newspaper always had what they called the morgue, and the morgue was a lady who was called a librarian. Every morning would cut up the newspaper, and she would file it under, say, for instance, Malin Thatcher. And so every time there was something about him in the newspaper, she would cut it out and put it in literally in a little file. And there are file, what do you call those? Filing
cabinets?
Yeah,
Yeah.
filing cabinets that are full of those kinds of things. That went up to the mid-90s, I think. And then things started being put on the internet.
I love that stuff. So even when we opened up Wake Up, because this is the oldest building in Pueblo that withstood the flood. Wow. And so, I wanted to bring that history back into the building and tell the story of, what's been through here. What are all the different layers and chapters? And we went to the library, and it was so neat to have all those archives to be able to go through and really understand the history because, that's why the paper is so important.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. It's our history.
How fun. Growing up in a newspaper. What was that like? Did you guys just run around as kids? Did your dad bring you to, the Chieftain often?
He didn't just bring us all the time. But yes, I definitely went there and was fascinated by the pot of molten lead. So they would, when it was a letterpress, they made the plates out of lead.
Oh,
and
wow.
They were semicircular, and they probably, I don't know how much one weighed, 50, 75 pounds. But every time they made a plate, then they would put the lead plate into this big pot, and it would melt.
Oh my goodness!
And it was bubbling, and it was wonderful.
You've seen, I'm sure, different ways to make the paper throughout the years. So, what was that process? Did it go from? I don't even know because I just have always just got the paper.
So it was organized in specialties, and so the news people wrote the article, typed it up, and sent a piece of paper into the composing room. And the composing room would set the type. And when they would lay out the story and put the headline in on a tray, and then when the plate or when the page was laid out, they would make an impression of it. And so that impression was wrong reading. Oh, wait a minute. Did they make the plate wrong reading and then the impression was right reading?
Probably wrong reading.
They had, and then so when they made the plate, the metal plate, it was wrong reading.
Oh, how
so
cool.
that when the paper came smashing down on it, it was right reading. And it was all very, very mechanical, and very structured into little pockets of things. I don't know, you're probably too young to remember Len Gregory, but he was our editor for a long time. He started in the composing room as a typesetter. And to make the plates, you had to have metal letters. And it was a keyboard that was for only linotype. It was not a QWERTY keyboard. It was a different kind of keyboard. And it would cause the letter to come down and then squirt molten lead into that mold. And then they would, again, reuse that also.
That's crazy.
It was crazy. It was fascinating. And then when they got a wire story from AP in New York or whatever, it would come on a teletype, and it would come on a ribbon of paper punched with holes, and it would come clacking through on this linotype machine, or on this I can't remember what it was called, but a machine that would print in little code the wire stories, and then they would somehow turn that into letters. I don't know how they did that. But it was totally different. And then in the 70s, it just was, okay, we got to go to what they called cold type. And that was pretty much very similar to what we have now. It was composed on a computer.
Okay. And that's what I've seen, because I did the leadership Pueblo class one year, and, you got to get a tour of the Chieftain, and it was so cool. I was infatuated with like how everything was produced. It's such a big thing back there that you don't even know like what's hidden back there until you experience it.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Do you have an all-time favorite story that was covered? I know, I'm sure there's so many, so it's hard to, just pick one.
Well, I have a story. When I was at Centennial, I was an ROTC sponsor, which was a girls' marching group. Mm-hmm. And we did marching in formations, kind of like a band would do, only it was a smaller group. And when I was a senior in high school, our group won the state championship in that kind of competition. And
congratulations.
I said, yeah, thank you. I thought it was pretty cool. I told my friends, we're going to get a story about this. My dad.
You're like, I know somebody.
Yeah. And he said, no. I said, well, why not? He said, well, because. I said so. It was not, he did not, for number one, family didn't get preference, ever. And so he couldn't go tell the editor to make a story about his daughter and her group.
Not just this one time. They made state. No? You would think.
You would think.
No.
But finally he did decide, I guess he talked to enough people and it was a big deal. He got our...
Big deal.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right. He got our a small story with our, I think she was a captain. She wasn't a general, but she was the leader of the group.
That's
and
awesome.
So they at least got her picture in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But not yours.
No.
Do you know how many times you've been featured in the paper? Nope. Too many to count.
Yeah, it's been. Since I moved back to Pueblo, it's been a few, but before that, I think that, and my name wasn't in that, so I don't think I was ever in the newspaper when I was living here before.
Gotcha. If you could have lunch or tea or coffee with somebody, who would that be? It could be dead or alive, too. It doesn't matter.
And
I
think I would really like to have met George Washington. He was one of those Renaissance guys. And I'd like to find out what it was like living in those days. Wouldn't want to live there, but I would love to know what was going through his mind personally from him when he was fighting the Revolutionary War. I think that would be...
That would be neat. What a cool era to live into. And I think it'd be neat.
Yeah, no toilets. No, thank you. No hot water. No.
Yeah, but you didn't know any better.
True.
I don't know. I think I love history. I'm fascinated with history, so I think that would have been super neat.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. And do you have a song that describes you or is like your favorite song in the world?
No,
Nope on a rope.
no. I have many songs that I like. They don't describe me at all. I just, I love Linda Ronstadt. I thought she had the most wonderful voice.
What kind of
And
music does she?
she started out doing folk music in
Okay.
the 60s, and she transitioned through several different genres, but she's Latina, and she did some Mexican songs in Spanish, and she had to learn Spanish in order to do the songs. I guess learning to sing a song is still a little bit different than learning the language itself. But I love her. I love Billy Joel and his piano. So I'm kind of back there. I like that stuff. Did not understand the Super Bowl music.
Oh, yesterday?
Yeah, don't
Oh,
really.
see, I loved it.
But
it
you
brought
grew
me.
up-
I
you
grew up
grew
with
up
it.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You're like, I don't get this.
No, I just don't. I don't. I like songs. I like to be able to hear the lyric, and I love musicals. But no, I don't have a favorite, and I don't have one that brings me to me.
Gotcha. Well, and that's okay. Do you have a favorite book or a favorite movie you'd be willing to share?
Well, when I was younger and needed a good cry, I would read the small book Goodbye, Mr. Chips, and I loved The Sound of Music.
It's a classic.
Yeah, I love musicals.
So when you lived in New York, did you go to Broadway and watch some shows?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would go by myself. I would go down to the place where you could buy cheap tickets the day of the performance. And so I usually got a really good seat because it was a single.
Right. So you could be in a squeeze in and you
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And I saw Yul Brynner in The King and I, and just lots of Broadway. That was one of the things I did. I shopped at Macy's. I read Vogue magazine. I saw a outfit that I thought was cute, and I walked into Macy's and I bought it.
Oh, you go, girl.
So I know.
What kind of outfit? I'm sure you remember the outfit.
I thought I did, but it was a different outfit. So no,
okay.
I don't remember it.
Because you're always dressed cute.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I dress much more casually these days since I retired.
Yeah. Well, I'm usually always in mom clothes, so this is the only time I get dressed up.
Oh, that's a cute sweater. And it is Valentine's Day.
It's my Valentine sweater.
Right.
I have a Valentine baby. I told you earlier.
Right,
so.
right.
Yeah, look at you. You get to spend Valentine's Day with me.
Right.
That's so nice of you. Yeah. So, you're born and raised in Pueblo. What's one of your favorite things about our community?
Well, I love the diversity. I absolutely love the diversity. I love the food. I love the local food. I love the blue skies and the weather. In our little donut hole of the state, man, we've got good weather.
We really do.
We're
do. Blessed with 300 plus days of sunshine,
Absolutely.
Get a little bit of fall, a little bit of, spring, a little bit of winter.
Get that much snow in the wintertime, it melts by noon the next day. And I love the people. I just think Pueblo has so much promise. And I was delighted to read about Wake Up Pueblo and some of the other things that, like Stephen Trujillo. Was he working on Wake Up Pueblo, or was it another thing?
No, he wasn't working with us, no.
Okay.
But my office used to be inside the Latino chamber, so I know Stephen very well.
Yeah.
He's a good man.
And he was doing some things to keep business going. And I think that those kinds of things, Matt, yourself have so much talent in this community and energy. I'm looking forward to seeing what the next generation, where you lead us. I just think we've gotten a little stodgy and we've gotten a little tired. And so it's
our turn to step up and
time.
Let's go.
Yeah. Fresh ideas and new ways of doing things. I think that's great.
Absolutely. And What does the word influential mean to you?
Well, obviously it comes from the word influence. Maybe engender, someone to think a little differently or to think bigger. I guess to think bigger, probably.
And what's something that most people don't know about you? That
I'm
Mr.
grumpy.
Dill just, no, I don't think you're grumpy.
I'm grumpy.
Do you really think you're grumpy?
I am. I mean, I would say the B word, but I don't want to say it.
You're funny. I don't think so at all. Okay. So most people would not know that you're a grumpy person. And what makes you grumpy then? Why do you say that?
Well, I'm pretty much of a perfectionist. And so when things don't go quite my way, I don't like that very well.
I get that. I'm with you. I'm a perfectionist. I like when things go my way, so I get it.
Okay. And I get over it real fast. You know, I have a little fit, and then like I said about the dusting, I get over it, and I do it, and I do my best. And that's another, of course, that's another thing I think influential means is you work hard, you do your best no matter how difficult or how much you don't like doing it. If it's something that you need to do, then you just do it. And you do your best at it. You don't schlock through it.
Schlock. I've never heard that word, but I'm going to start using it on my kids.
It's
I like
a great word.
That's a fantastic word.
Yeah. It's probably Jewish.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal it.
Yeah, good.
So what else do we need to know about you? What else do people not know about you?
Well, I think now everybody knows everything.
You think so?
Yeah.
What's your favorite color?
It depends on the thing.
Oh.
Blue is a color I love. I love to wear blue. I love to wear fuchsia color. I love to wear multicolored bright things. I like green grass. So nature colors. I like nature colors.
Because growing up in Beulah, do you still have a place there?
Yeah.
Do you still go off there often?
Dave actually was caretaker for a number of years, and when the rest of the family couldn't find another caretaker, we just decided, okay, we're just going to step away, and you guys figure it out, because he was starting to become unable to do all the things that needed to be done. And so sure enough, some of the other family has stepped in and taken over. We may,
So you have like a retreat pretty much in Beulah then?
Dave calls it a small resort.
Okay.
Yeah. There is a small house, a one-bedroom house that my grandmother built, and it's winterized. But the big house that has all the bedrooms that family members come and stay in is not winterized, and it's old and needs a lot of uptake, a lot of care, and
Does it have a name?
work. Yes, it does. The little house is called La Casita, the little house, and the big house is something about woods. Now I can't remember.
Well, we're going to have lunch there one day. I'll pack us a little, charcuterie board, and we'll have to get to know each other on another level one day.
Okay, well, that sounds fun.
Now, do you still have any of your grandparents' houses, like the one in Colorado Springs when they moved here, or?
No, that set of grandparents, my great-grandparents, Hogue, lived in the house that David Farrell lives in now, up on 15th and Greenwood.
Okay.
It's a big white stucco.
Okay.
Used to be gray stucco, across from the Thatcher Mansion
Okay.
to the west. That one is still standing. And my dad's little house that he grew up in Los Animas is still standing, but we don't have any ownership or anything. My grandmother's house in Fort Morgan is still standing. And
The farmhouse?
it's not a farmhouse.
Oh, okay.
It's a townhouse.
Oh, okay.
But it was on a huge lot. And she loved flowers and grew flowers, and they were beautiful. And she loved vegetables, and she grew vegetables. She was really a horticulturist. But no, the houses in Beulah are the ones that the family still has some involvement in.
That would be neat if you opened it up to the community and read, like, if you got it to where it needed to be. Sounds like it needs a little bit of love.
Would you like to buy it?
Maybe. We have a tiny, like probably 700-foot cabin in Santa Isabel that overlooks the lake.
Oh, nice.
And we love it up there. So that's kind of like our Beulah where but I mean, we've definitely outgrown our tiny space with 3 kiddos and hopeful to expand this year, the cabin. So we do love the San Isabel, Beulah, Rye area, It's kind of like a home away from home where our children are, blessed to grow up there as well and make lots of memories. That's what life's about.
Yeah.
Have a little getaway.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Jane, I appreciate you being here today. I appreciate all of the legacies you and your family have left. It is truly an honor just to be sitting with you here. Like, you are truly a magnificent woman, and you have done so much. So thank you from not only our community, but so many women who look up to you.
Well, Jenny, thank you. And I really didn't feel like I had anything much to offer and was kind of reluctant to come do this interview. But if anybody takes anything from it, then I'm very happy to have talked to you. I'm very happy to have met you anyway.
Yes,
so, yeah.
Likewise. And I'm sure lots of people are going to get something, especially the new lady from the paper.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to send this to her.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, I'll be on that. So we'll work on that together because I agree with you there.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll make headlines together because, you still have some stuff in store I know you're wanting to do. So we're going to work on that together and see what I can help you with. And
I would love to meet her.
There we go. Well, let's see. Maybe we have that charcuterie board up in Beulah,
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we should. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Influential Women Podcast. Jane, you are a delightful woman. So thank you. She is not grumpy, just for the record. She might say she's grumpy a lot, but she's not grumpy. So,
well, Jenny, thank you. I appreciate you asking me.
Absolutely. All right. See you next time.